In this video, I'll show you how to convert data that's in Google Sheets to finished reports, and doing that using make.com and ChatGPT. Now, I build AI automations, and if you're interested in booking a call with me to see how AI automations can help you in your business, just look at the description below and follow the link there, and we can set up a call. Now, this is a project that I did for a client. It's a larger project that converts data into raw data into first draft reports for them, saving them not hours but weeks of time. It takes them about 6 to 12 weeks to write reports based on geographic data, and this automation helps to bring that down to under an hour to get the first draft report ready for them to review. And there are a couple of features in here that I'd like to make some tutorials about because I see them come up quite often. The first one that this video is about is how to take data from Google Sheets, bring them into make.com, and then convert that into a quick report. Now, this can be used for any of your data that's in Google Sheets. It's worth experimenting and to see how you can apply this to your own business. So let's get in. Here is just one section of the larger automation that I built. We're not going to get into all of this today, but what I want to look at is specifically this section over here, which in essence is the data that's extracted. Here it is aggregated and JSON is created from it, but we're not going to do that today. We'll do that in the next video. And it's going to create it. We're creating a report from that and then posting that back into Excel or in Google Sheets. I extracted that part and just copied it over here. So this is what we're looking at. So what we will be using are three modules. You've got your Google Sheets search rows modules, and then your Google Sheets add row module. And then in between, we've got the writing of the report using ChatGPT. So I'm going to go through all of these individually, one at a time. Let me just unlink this. I've already set this up. So for the Google Sheets, first you need to have a Google Sheet ready. So in my case, I have this data over here, and this is exactly the data that my client used. So essentially they have software that calculates country-specific information, and you can see here that there are rows of data, about 7,000 rows of data here that they use to write reports of. And so what they usually do is they create a tableau charts out of this. They create about 39-ish tableau charts out of this, and then the researchers write the reports based on that. Now, I built a tool that essentially creates a report that you don't need to create the tableau chart as well. So you can see you saw the rows there, and then columns. The data comes from 1960 all the way through to 2045 in the future. All of the data here. Now, but just looking at this, it is not that useful, right? So what we're going to do, we are going to convert this into a report. Now, I've got the report page here. I'm just going to delete the ones I've created already. I created a column 1 for date, column B for the actual report. You can add whatever you need in here as well. We'll post that in later. So essentially you need your input and a place for your output. So get that ready, right? Then looking at make.com, what we've got is the search rows module, right? Now, if I open this up, what you need to do is you need to link the spreadsheet that you are using. So in our case, this is the spreadsheet ID that I'm copying in. Now, you can select from my drive, which means you can actually go and search for the file specifically in your drive. I prefer to use the select from all and using the spreadsheet ID. Now, this I would usually save in a variable. Where do you get this? You can either search for it directly. If you click on ID Finder, you type in the keywords, the name of that file, and it'll find that spreadsheet ID for you. Look at this. So mine is on a shared drive. So if I use my company shared drive, then it should find that ID. There it is, right? But a quicker way to find this is also on the spreadsheet itself. If you look at the URL. So if you navigate back to your spreadsheet and you look at the URL between the D/ right over there and the edit at the end, everything in there, that is your document ID. So you can literally just copy this and paste it in there. That's the same information. And what you would see is the sheet names being updated. So I should have 3 sheet names in here. I've got data input, raw data, and report, right? We want to look at the data that's in data input. Okay. Does my sheet contain column headers? Yes, it does. And what is the range that we're looking at? Now, typically this would be set to A to Z. It's unlikely that your columns are set to more, larger columns than just to column Z. In my case, I just had to go and have a look. If I go to the far right, then I can see there is CN is the last column for me, which means I need to make sure that that is captured within this range. So AZ is just that amount of columns, and then BZ, CZ, all the way down to how many columns ever you want. Now minus CZ, so that's what I'm limiting it to. Good. So we've got our spreadsheet ID, we've got our sheet name, raw data. Let me run this once, and then we'll see what output we're going to get. If I right click, run this module only, I expect to get thousands of rows of data, because what it does, it will import the entire spreadsheet, everything, all of these rows, because it's not been filtered. Right, there it's done. If I select here, then I'll see the output. There's the first row with measure A all the way down to the year 2045, and that's row number 2. Okay, then bundle 2 would be row number 3, because it'll be row number 3 because the column headers are in row number 1, and then the first row is row 2, second row is row 3, and so forth. And this carries on. I expect thousands of bundles here because there are 7,000 rows. So if I scroll all the way down here, look at that, 7,000 bundles. Okay, I don't want that. I need to filter the data. I'm not going to import all of that information. I can use it and then basically bankrupt myself with all the credits that it'll use, but I only want to look at a specific section. So what we're going to look at now are filters. So for filters, essentially how it works is the same way filters work in a document, in a Google Sheets document, right? It works the same way. So this field here, filter, essentially works the same as when you click on your column headers and you select filters, create a filter, right? That drop down, right? So what we want to do is we want to limit the information that we want to send through to Make, right? Now, firstly, let's start with a specific country. I'm just going to look at Lesotho, for example. Okay. So here I'm filtering on geography for Lesotho. Okay. And I'm selecting that one. Okay. It's selecting all of them. Let me just clear here first. Lesotho. Selecting it. Okay. Great. So now we've got fewer lines. The same thing you can do in Make. So I want to filter on geography, that it's only Lesotho. Go back to Make. I want to filter on geography. The text operator should be equal to Lesotho. And then you'll get the same bundles imported into Make. Right. But not only that, I want to filter a bit more. I want to filter on a specific measure. So each one of these measures are specific Tableau charts that they create. Right. So one that we want to look at is, let's say, for example, the urban population. Now I know the urban population, so this is just in my case, the urban population is called, where is it? Population, there we go. Population per urban HF, there we go. So there we've got one measure now. So I want to filter only on that and only get the data from here. Population per urban HF. I'm going to copy this, because I want to do the same thing in Make. So now I say I want to filter on geography, right? And I want to filter on the measure. And the measure should be equal to that field we just copied. Okay. And then we're going to get everything, only that one row. So we expect only one bundle. Let's see what happens. There we go. It runs population per urban. It's receiving for Lesotho, and here's all that data. Fantastic. Now we've got the information in Make, and now we can start using it and writing a report from it. Okay, so we've got the required information. If I filter this out and clear the filters here, select everything, it doesn't affect the make.com filters. So let me show you here. So here everything is selected again, right? And if I run, let's just go all the way to the top. There we go. So all the fields are active again. If I go here and I run it again, this module, then you will see that it will still output only one bundle. There we go. Right, because that is the data filter that's been set up in Make. Okay, so next up, we want to take this data and we want to write a short narrative about it. Something that can be used. You can either send an email, send a Slack message, or just have a short report that you can use for your research. And that's how it's actually used by the client. So what we do is I generate a completion. So if you right click, add a module, and then go to OpenAI and you search for generate a completion. That is the module that we'll use here. In a following module, we'll use messaging as an assistant, where we'll pre-create an assistant in OpenAI and use an API call to link that in, and we'll attach vector databases and things like that, which gets really exciting. But for now, we're just going to generate a completion. So what we've got here is generating completion, right? You select your OpenAI connection. If this is not set up, you need to set this up as well because it uses API credits. And then you create a chat completion and then select the module that you're going to use, the model that you will be using. Okay. You can use any one of these. ChatGPT 5.1 just released now, so we can start using that as well. Let me use 5.1 and see what the output is. Now, setting this up, what you'd usually do is you'd create a system. That's firstly, so what is this tool? So in our case, we would say, this would be like the initial prompt that you create in ChatGPT. So it'll be something like, you are a professional researcher that specializes in African countries. It's just to prime the system. I mean, you can make this more detailed as you want, but just for the demo purposes, I'm just going to put that. And then you're going to add another message. So that will be the first message that you put in ChatGPT, for example. And then we want to create a user prompt. Now, what you would usually do is the best prompts have examples in them. So what we would do is you would actually create the user, message, the instruction that you want to send ChatGPT. So I'm going to give you raw data on the population of, I'm going to select a country in here because I can either hard code it to Lesotho like that, or what I can do is I can make it a bit variable and add Lesotho in here, geography. There we go. I'm going to give you raw data on the population of geography, which in our case is Lesotho, right? Please write a quick report on the changes as if I'm looking at let's say a line chart, right? Now, as I said earlier, what you'd usually do to add another message where you would give the data, like dummy data, and then give an example output. So how you'd give an example output is you'd say the assistant responds in a certain way. So then you'd have the example of what you're looking for, right? We're not going to do that right now. So I'm just going to say the user, another message. I gave the user message there. Then the next user, what I want to do is I'm going to say the geography is Lesotho. I know I'm mentioning it again here. It's not strictly necessary, but it just for clarity. And then check the urban population. Metric is the percent of population. There we go, because the sheet has different metrics. depending on what the fields are, right? So we're looking at the percentage of the population, and I'm just going to put in 3 years for it to check. Let's start with 1960, which is there, 2025, the current year, there we go, and then 2045, right, there we go. So we can see there are changes happening. You can see it's increasing from 3.5% all the way through to a predicted 42%. You can select and add all of these years, but for the demo, I'm just going to put in those 3, and I'm going to click Save, right? We see that little red dot means there's something not quite right. It's usually what happens is it doesn't save properly. There we go. And now it's saved. So now we can give this a try and see what it pops out. So I'm going to click on Run Once. And what it does, it fetches the data again from that Google Sheets, and then it imports it into this write report. And then it's going to start writing a report. So let's see what the output is. There we go. Click on the bubble on the top right. Here you can check what the input is. There we go. Usage. Oh dear, I see that 5.1 did not. Here we go. There it is. There's the content. There's the output. So under choices, 1 message content. There we go. Urbanization in Lesotho has risen sharply over time and is projected to keep increasing. In 1960, only 3.5%. On a line chart, this would appear near the bottom of the vertical axis, reflecting an overwhelming rural society. And there it carries on, takes that data, 2045 up to 42%. This is similar to what we have, right? Visually, you would see a low, flat starting point, 1960, strong climb to 2025, continued but slightly upward to 2025. There we go. Right. So as you can see, we used limited data. We didn't have to use all of the data in ChatGPT. You can see if you click on the text content, right, you can actually see what all the data are, what is accessible for you to use, and it's quite a lot. So there is a way where we can create a JSON and actually combine all of this data into one field to add, because adding from 1960 to 2045 every time is quite a lot of columns to add manually into this report. Right, so that's the writing of the report. Now, once that report is done, we want it to output somewhere. So I'm just going to feed it back into the Google Sheets file and have that ready for us. So what the module that you'll use is add row under Google Sheets. There we go. So if you select for Google Sheets, add a row, right? Then what you'll do is you'll select the same spreadsheet ID again. Now, what you can do is you can manually copy and paste that spreadsheet ID in again. But what you can also do is you can just link back to the initial module, right? So what I do here is if I select there and I look on the right, then I'll see from the fetch data module, right? If I highlight there, I can see actually where it glows. And then I can see there is a field here called spreadsheet ID. And that is exactly what we want to use, right? So I select spreadsheet ID and it'll fill in that same data. That means there's less chance of a typo creeping in, okay? We select our report that we want to use and our column range, okay? What we want to update because we're adding another row to this sheet, right? Then it asks you what should the values be for each of the columns. So we selected column A to Z because if we look at the report sheet, we're only using A and B. Okay, so we don't need to go all the way to CZ like we did for the initial input data. So we're only using A to Z, right? And we are only going to, for this demo, only going to put in the now field or the date field and then the result of the actual report. So what you would do, let's just show you the result quickly before we do that. So in Google Sheets, we've got the date, we've got the report in column B. The report, if you select the field and you look at the result of ChatGPT, you'll find the result in there. Urbanization in Lesotho as a result. There we go. Select that result, right? Okay. And then I added the date in here. So how I do that is I select now. That means when it was created. Now, the thing is, when you just select now, it will not format the date. So it'll have a very long date and it'll be based on the universal time. So it won't be exactly accurate for your use. What you do for that is you just format that date. So if you look here as well, under the functions, you can select format date. And the date that we're using is this now date, right? And the format that we want it in is just the day, month, and year. Okay, we're not going to add the time to it. Or we could. Let's add the time to it as well. We're going to have the time as space and then have it as hour and minute. Okay, there we go. Now, one thing that you can miss with formatting a date is adding your time zone. And this is quite useful because what you do here, it's optional, so you don't have to do it. But if you look at the example here at the top of format date, there you can see you add the date before the first semicolon, the format that you want it in, and then after the semicolon, there's an optional field called time zone. And what you would do here is you add the semicolon, and then you type the time zone in. You first add the continent and then the major city that you're in. So in my case, it'll be Africa/Johannesburg, and it will adopt the time zone of Africa, Johannesburg, right? And we've got the result in there, and then we click save. And then if I run this entire report again, I'm quickly going to go over to Google Sheets. We should see it popping up here in any second now. There we go. So there we've got our date set in the format that we want. And then also the report itself. So if I click on the report, just want to change the formatting a bit like that. There we go. And there we've got our report. And that is how you can quickly get data from Google Sheets, transform it in ChatGPT, and then automatically populate another document. So you can send this directly to an email, you can send this to a report, you can send this to Google Sheets, wherever you need the information quickly. And that is extremely useful to understand the data that you're working with, right? In the next video, I will look at how you can combine the data into a single JSON and to aggregate multiple rows if you want to use more than one row in a ChatGPT report. So for now, this is what we've got. As I said again, if you're looking to use AI automations in your business, just look in the description below and you'll see a link there to book a call with me.